Welcome back to the Band Guide. I'm your band guy, Colin, and this is another 5-minute GarageBand expert where I'm bringing you 30 tips and tricks for mixing and recording in GarageBand in 30 days. Today, we're running drums through guitar amps. This is one of my absolute favorite ways to drastically change the tone of the drum sound instantly. It's also just a great reminder that there's really no rules in music. Have fun, be creative, try things out, run drums through guitar amps. It's a crazy thing to do, but sometimes it's exactly the right thing to do. When you're making music, you should be fun and creative and play around with different things. The more fun you have, the more fun your listener is going to have. So don't be afraid to try things out. This is a great trick if you want to change the tone of your drums at different points in the song. You hit a bridge and you want a little more distortion or reverb, run it through a guitar amp and just do all of that at once really quickly. Or if you want to layer some drums on top of each other to really build out a section, if you run some through guitar amps, you can get a lot of difference in their tones so they really sound great in the mix. Not everything has to sound good for everything to sound great. You know what I mean? This is a great example of that. So this isn't going to work for every song, but if you have a song that needs it, that calls for it, nothing else is going to do. You're going to have to try this out. It's super cool. It's super fun. And it's super easy. I'm going to give you a 3-step process to just nail the tone every time that you do this. Before we get into it, I did want to let you know that song you just heard in the intro, and you've heard at the beginning and end of every one of my videos, is the song Gold Brick Champion by my band Broke Royals, and we just released it this past Friday on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you listen to music. It would mean the world to me if you would check it out. I'll link to it in the description below as well. Gold Brick Champion by Broke Royals. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you do listen to it, let me know in the comments below. It would mean the world to me. Let's go ahead and dive into this example. In this example, I have one main drum part that runs throughout the entire song. It's kind of a calm drum part played with brushes and rods. And then as the song builds at the end, I wanted to bring in more drums, but that drum part was working so well, I decided I was going to take a different approach than just kind of bringing in a different drum part with sticks to really build it out. I decided I would do stereo drum parts running through a guitar amp and just getting a crazy tone. So let's listen to what that sounds like in the context of this mix. Through the main drum sound. Pretty wild, right? So those are a little loud, and I might mix them a little bit differently in a final mix of this track. We're still kind of working on the creation of this song at this point, but it adds the energy that we want, and we did it super simply. So I figured out the drum part that I wanted, and in this case, I wanted to have something kind of move left to right. So it starts with the fill just in the left ear, and then both drums come in the left and right. And I didn't want the exact same drum part in this case. I wanted there to be a little bit of variation, kind of like you were watching two drummers play at the same time. In this case, 3 drummers play at the same time. So let's go to this example here, and I'll pan it up the middle, and I'll show you those 3 steps to always get a killer tone with this. So if we take this amp off, this is just a normal drum sound. So very straightforward. We didn't do anything crazy with this really. So let's throw on a whole new amp, and I'll do it from the beginning up. So just amp designer here, and this is what that sounds like right off the bat. So kind of terrible, right? And that's okay. But the first step you want to do is, once you pull it up, you want to play with the heads. You want to do the biggest change first, and changing out the amp head is going to drastically change the tone. So we're going to try a couple different amp heads here. Let's see, what is... That's pretty cool. Now I know I ended up going with this boutique, let's see, retro amp. This has this cool grit to it. So totally change the tone really, really quickly. And then the second thing you want to do is you want to play with the mic placement. That's going to be your second biggest change in tone. So once we figure that out, the head that we want, we're going to try this mic placement. Now, be thinking before you start this, what do I want this to sound like? In this case, I want it to be a little crunchy, have a little more high end, but I don't want it to be quite this bright. So we're going to move the mic away from the center of this cone. Right now, it's right on the center of this cone. We're going to move it out towards the side. Let's listen to how that changes it. Oh yeah, it's kind of like low. It's like we shelved everything off. It's kind of lo-fi almost now. That's cool. Now, these can often be pretty loud, so we're going to bring the gain down here a little bit. Let's go about there. And then the last thing you want to do is if there's any individual settings you want to change on the amp head itself, go ahead and adjust those now. If you want a little more reverb or if you still want a little bit more of those mids, try dialing those in at this point. But do most of your tone shaping with that mic placement, most of the overall sound through picking the right head. And then just tweak that last little bit to get the last. And then if you want to do two, in this case, like we did here, on your second one, try a different amp head. And then try to use the mic to balance a tone. So they sound somewhat similar. It's not hugely different. And you can get an awesome sounding stereo guitar recording of a drum sound. It's awesome. It's super cool. If your song calls for it, it's super fun. But you could do that on just one track. Use those same exact principles. Set your amp head, set your mic placement, and then tweak the settings to be exactly right. If you don't already have it, be sure to grab my 6-step checklist to make GarageBand drums sound real. There's a lot of subtle little things you can do to make your GarageBand drums sound way more real. I've put together a 6-step checklist that just walks you through all of them. Be sure to download that. I'll link to it. It's completely free from the link in the description below. If you got value from this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.